Hey kids, guess what time it is? It's adventure time! Specifically, it's time to count down some of the saddest moments from the seemingly sweet cartoon.
Place looks magical.
The creator of the show, Pendleton Ward, has said that he really likes sad things, and after you actually get a good look at all of the episodes, you can sort of see that faintly sad undertone bubbling underneath the surface, because there's a lot of stuff to get through and a lot of heavy feels that hit you hard the more you watch this cartoon. See, here's the thing. Much like Steven Universe, the first bits of this show sort of at first don't really feel like anything more than just sort of a fantastical, slightly comedic adventure series. But then, as time goes on and the more episodes that you watch, the more you realize there's a lot more depth and intelligence and, well, sadness to the show than you could have ever foreseen.
Adventure time.
And it's because the show is able to touch you in the way that it does, I want to count down the saddest moments that the show has to offer. Now, before we get started, I'd like to begin with some, well, honorable mentions of sorts. Ones that almost came close to being the top 5 saddest moments in the series, but didn't quite reach it. Finn and the Flame Princess's fallout. See, here's the thing. Finn keeps getting these erotic dreams. Erotic dreams that keep happening every time the Ice King and Flame Princess fight each other. And he just can't keep resisting, continuously trying to watch them fight, and if need be, to make them fight. All for the sake of those erotic dreams.
So I had to get you to beat up Ice King.
Shh. I should have known.
And when Finn finally crosses the line and tricks her again into fighting with the Ice King, and he's finally forced at the end of the episode to admit that basically he was forcing them to fight by tricking her into doing it, she's so hurt, she breaks off the relationship. So a formerly good, seemingly healthy relationship is destroyed just because Finn was having erotic dreams and he couldn't tone it down. So why is this not in the top 5? Well, for one, Flame Princess would eventually find her happy ending. Not to mention the fact that all of this comes off as so contrived that I'm more angry than upset and sad. And there's a similar problem for the next part. Finn's pillow family.
What did the Oracle say, Father?
And wow, this is quite a lot to unpack.
I think so.
You see,
the
reason why I'm not entirely sure whether or not this should be counted as a sad moment is because I don't know how much of all of this is a dream and how much of it is real. Because of that, it's kind of hard to cover the subject matter. Because if it's not a dream, then, my God, all of this really is incredibly sad. Because Pin lives an entire lifetime. He finds love, he has a family, he dies surrounded by family and friends in this pillow world, and they all seem to know that he's not going to remember them. Even though they beg him not to forget. And then, at the end of the episode, he forgets. Like, he doesn't even remember at all what happened to him previously, like, not even a little bit. He can't remember his pillow family at all. So the question is it a dream, or did it all really happen? And it's because of that ambiguity that I couldn't honestly put it up on the top 5, because it's just too up in the air about whether or not all this really happened, and I'd rather deal in stuff that definitely did happen. Everything stays. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why is Everything Stays not on the list. And believe me, it could have been. It really, really could have been. Here's the reason why this episode didn't get on the top 5, but I would put it at number 6 if I could. The reason why is because it's a very good look into the life of Marceline, and there's a lot of definitely sad and heartwarming moments, from the final bits of memory that she has with her mother to meeting with Simon for what may be the last time before he completely lost his sanity. But the reason why Everything Stays doesn't end up on the saddest episodes is because in the end, Marceline does get cured of her vampirism, and that is technically a happy ending. So, well, that sort of slightly disqualifies it, because the other ones, well, the other episodes don't exactly have very happy.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry I pushed you.
Marceline and the Ice King's relationship. Now, the reason why I feel this should be counted as one of Adventure Time's top 5 saddest moments is because we keep seeing constant flashbacks pointing out how close they used to be before the Mushroom War started, during the fallout, and both of them are parallels of each other. Both of them used to have normal lives, they lost their loved ones, they turned into monsters that are pale reflections of the selves that they used to be. The only difference is that Marceline is painfully aware of everything in her past, and Simon will never really be aware of it. The Ice King's backstory. When we finally do find out the real truth behind the Ice King, it is, quite simply, one of the saddest episodes in Adventure Time history. And it's a twist that nobody saw coming. When they finally learn that Ice King used to be a Russian named Simon Petrov, sorry, I might be mispronouncing his name a bit. When they found out who he really was, Finn and Jake are completely shocked. The person that's been their number one nemesis for all this time used to be just a normal guy. A normal guy with a nice job and a loving fiancée who was his princess. And when he put on the Ice King crown, everything changed. He lost his fiancée, he lost his identity, and pretty soon he ended up basically being completely lost inside his own mind. Time and time again, the series hammers in the idea that deep down, Simon is still in the Ice King, somewhere, and that the Ice King is basically just a, well, pale imitation of who Simon really is. Only the faintest traits of whom Simon's character used to be are still lingering out. His love of women, his desire to make them his princess. Deep down, he's very intelligent and smart, and he's got a surprising mechanical knack as well. The problem is that, well, he's too far gone. As long as the crown is on his head, he's just too far gone, and there's really not much that anybody can do for him. It's a moment so depressing and so heartbreaking that even Jake and Finn, who have hated this guy for probably several years now, if not months, after fighting him over and over again, finally feel pity for him.
Would get together while wearing really big sweaters and watch videos on the floor next to a fire to celebrate the day when Finn and Jake had a fleeting moment of empathy for the biggest weirdo in OO. It was a miracle. Good night.
Real Betty in there
But,
somewhere.
as sad as all that is, it doesn't quite compare to the sadness that
get in there
comes
and reach.
from Ice King
I will.
and Betty's relationship.
I'm the reason
And the reason
you're
why
doing all
this is so depressing
because you knew
is because
I'd
when
borrow
Betty
it next.
finally came back,
It was the
there was
funniest,
a brief,
smartest note I've ever read.
tiny glimmer that maybe, just
Betty,
maybe,
I love you. Sling, Betty, stay with
the
it.
two could have their old lives back and they could be happy.
Simon?
Oh,
And then,
Betty, I
when it was
can't
clear
believe
that
it's
wasn't
really
going to
you.
happen,
Close
there was that
enough.
tiny glimmer that perhaps Betty could find a cure for the Ice King.
People
And if she
say
couldn't find a
you
cure,
shouldn't
well,
live in the past.
maybe she could
But I
learn
say,
to love the
why
Ice King
not?
for who he was.
I love
Maybe
it.
she could learn
This book
to
is
love
strange,
Simon
but when you
for
puzzle it out,
whom
it's
he'd
mostly
ended
all
up
charges and
as.
frequencies.
Unfortunately,
Instead of fixing Ooh,
therein
I
is the
can use these
heartbreaking
jewels
part,
to make a portal
because
to take me back
the
in
thing
time
is,
and find
Betty
Simon
genuinely
before he
did
discovers the
try.
crown.
She
Things will
really
be back to
did
being just
try
me and
to
Simon.
look
And you
past what
won't
Simon had
exist.
become, but she just
No more
can't
Ice
let
King.
go of the
No more
past.
Magic Betty.
She can't
Maybe
move on,
I can even stop
and
the
she
mushroom
just
war.
can't stop thinking about what could have been and what should have been. She wants her beloved back. She wants Simon back. And she wants to fix things, regardless of how far-reaching the consequences might be. I think Betty puts it best.
My wonderful Simon will never become this sad, pathetic creature strewn before me.
Wait, what?
I thought I could do it, but I can't. Being with you is like looking at my old life through a funhouse mirror. It's driving me mad!
See, at least Marceline can talk to Bubblegum Princess when she's feeling depressed about her past, but Betty really doesn't have any friends, and that's why, to me, her relationship with Ice King and Simon is sadder than Marceline and Ice King's. But if we're going to talk about really
hi,
sad
Princess.
things from
I'm,
Adventure
writing
Time, you
something for Jake.
absolutely have to talk
speaking
about
of
the
Jake,
relationship
did he explain
between
everything to
Finn
you?
Yeah?
and Princess
And you
Bubblegum.
understand?
See, here's
Yeah,
the
I
thing.
understand.
Finn, for a long,
Sometimes
long
you want
time,
someone,
really,
and you want
really
to kiss
liked
them
Princess
and be
Bubblegum.
with them. But you can't.
Unfortunately,
because
she basically
responsibilities
gave up
demand
the
sacrifice.
relationship that she had with
What are
him
you trying to say?
to be the full-time
I'm trying
princess
to say that you're a
of the
hero,
Candy
Princess.
Kingdom. And he, of course,
Bubblegum, I can't
did
do this
not
anymore.
exactly
What?
Now
completely
you
get
like me?
over that.
Finn, what are you talking about?
What am I talking about? Peebee, I was in love with you, okay? And you didn't love me back. Now I'm ready to move on, and it's like you're gonna build me up all over again. Well, I'm done. I'm done.
You heartless monster!
And you might
You
think
have
that,
any
well, I'm
idea
sure
how
over
much he's crying
time,
over you?
eventually,
Finn deserves
as
to be happy.
Finn would find
Even
other
if his
people to
blooper face
love,
gets burned
he'd
off.
get over
You
this
should
to
be
some extent,
ashamed.
right? I mean, what about Flame Princess? Or maybe there were other people that he fell in love with, or maybe he just got mature enough to get over the bitter feelings he had. Well, see, here's the thing. When he goes to his happy place, this is what's inside.
Here, take it, you cutie.
Happy place!
This is really
I could stay
damn depressing. Even after 8 seasons,
I'd enjoy just
even
just
after
hanging out.
she's rejected him
too.
and he knows he can't really be with her, his happiest moment, the happiest place in his very soul, is still by her side. He hasn't gotten over her. And
I
that's
wish I
just
could stay
incredibly depressing.
like this.
The outside
But
world's
then,
really
of course,
cool.
we get
I have
to
cool
the light
friends.
cloud.
Yeah.
I live in
When
a cool
Finn
treehouse.
actually meets his mother,
I
Minerva.
go on cool quests.
See, here's the thing.
That sounds
Minerva
dangerous.
is
No!
basically sort of like
But
a
people
brain in a
need danger
jar
in order to
who's
grow.
using
How will y'all
robot
survive when you leave the island?
bodies, extensions of
Leaving the
herself,
island would
to look
destroy us.
after this
Besides, why would
huge
they want
group
to
of
leave?
humans that are living out on these islands far away from the land of Ooh, where Finn normally calls home. And she doesn't want Finn to leave. She wants him to stay there because it's safer there, because the people here have everything provided for them. She says she's helping them, but Finn says he knows all about helping. And he knows all about helping because of everything he's endured in the land of Ooh and all he's overcome. And Minerva, of course, is shocked by all of this.
You grew up
See,
to be a helper
deep
too.
down, a part of her overprotection comes
If
from the
your world
fact
told you
that
to
she
behave
feels
like
she
that,
failed
maybe it's
Finn,
not.
because his dad ran off with him when he was a little baby and she never got him back. And now she has got him back, but she can't really stay
How's that,
with him.
Flashby?
and he can't really stay with her
really you?
because Ooh
Once you
needs
uploaded
him.
your brain and stuff, like,
So, but they
are you
do
still the
share
same person?
one final goodbye.
I don't know for sure,
and
but I feel
it's
like it's
very
me.
touching.
I hope that's enough.
goodbye.
When I first saw this, I admit it, I cried. And it really does hit you hard in the feels, because even though the ending of this episode is technically happy, it's very bittersweet because they can't stay together. It's heartwarming and it's beautiful because at least they part on good terms, and she's proud of him, but it's still very sad. So, what could possibly be more heartbreaking than a mother having to say goodbye to the child she lost for so long?
You're not coming
Well,
with us?
Once I
her
determine you
relationship
haven't been followed, I will join
with his
you at
dad.
the boat.
We
The
insist
episode
you join
Min
us
and Marty,
now.
and I
Other
mean
than
this
that,
as
you only have
seriously as I
psychological
can,
problems.
is
Well,
the
I
most
could've told you that.
heartbreaking, saddest
like a hider.
episode
I'm
of
not.
Adventure Time.
It was
And the
wrong
reason
place,
why
wrong
it's
time
so
type of deal.
sad
It's
is
true.
because of everything
I
it
love
shows
here.
about Finn's
So,
mother and
why
father,
not?
especially
You're a helper,
his
huh?
father,
Yes.
Marty.
I think that fella's
In
still
the
alive.
previous episodes of Adventure Time, he's always come across as a lying jerk who's never been completely honest
Very funny.
about what
didn't see
he
you before
wants,
tomorrow.
what
Enjoy
he's
the
up
education.
to, and then we get this.
But only for 2 weeks. To be hopeless or not to be, I'm weak with indecision. Could we begin again on a terrible day? Would be greatly appreciated by me. I'll wear my normal shoes this time. Then maybe you'd like me better in the sunlight. If I build a raft, will you stay with me then? And fall in love all over again.
Even now, I still tear up a little watching that. It's so perfectly atmospheric. And here's the reason why this episode is so sad. It's because it shows basically a perfectly normal relationship. Marty is not exactly the best guy around, but in this episode, it's shown that despite being something of a con man who's kind of gotten in a bit too deep with people he shouldn't be getting in too deep with, he was trying to be a good father and was genuinely trying to clean up his act. But then when his past comes to haunt him, everything is ruined. His poor choices, well,
Let's give
it
Mom a
basically takes his family away
guess we'll
from
just
him.
circle
And he
around the
doesn't even
island
have
and
time
see
to
if-
explain to his wife what's going on when the absolute worst happens,
Let's just
and
wait
he's
out the
forced
storm and then
to try, basically, to abandon Finn in the
I'll be back
name
for
of
you.
trying to save him. He fights off the giant guardian of the island, but unfortunately, Finn gets washed away. And Marty eventually wakes up miles away from the island, and with what's apparent to be a clear head wound. The implication being that he suffered severe trauma. Now, of course, the implication to all of this is that the head injury that he endured has affected his personality and his memory, and that's why he doesn't exactly fully remember everything that happened to him and with Finn and with Minerva, his wife. But I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. There are bits from his past that he does seem to remember, albeit fuzzily and mixed up. He did technically fight off a tiger in the name of trying to save Finn's life. There were a lot of bananas on the island, and there were banana boats to deliver stuff, and he very clearly does remember his wife because he named his ship the Minnie, after Minerva. So why does he act the way he does? Well, part of it might have to do with trauma, but I think another reason is because deep down, he's kind of cowardly, and he just feels that, well, as he puts it,
But why do you always run from everything?
You burn enough bridges, the only direction to move is forward.
and this is why this is the saddest episode, the saddest part of Adventure Time, because neither Minerva nor Finn are ever going to know the truth about Marty. Nobody is going to know that deep down he was actually a good father. They'll never know that he saved Finn's life. Even Marty doesn't fully remember what happened. And that's why this is such a tragedy. They're never going to know, and there's never going to be closure to this. It's just incredibly depressing. There's going to be no fixing this. Marty went off. He became another form of existence. I mean, at least with the other stuff, it's a possibility that maybe Simon could remember who he used to be. Or that Princess Bubblegum could get back with Finn, but there's not going to be any fixing what happened with Min and Marty and Finn. And that's why the episode is the saddest part of Adventure Time.
I'll be back.
Bar none. Well, thank you for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, or that it hit you in the feels too. If you've got your own saddest moments of Adventure Time, please, by all means, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think of the show.
Come on,
Bye.
grab your friends, we'll go to very distant lands with Finn and Jake and Susan Strong and possibly BMO. It's Adventure Time.